Welcome to the Slasher Report. This is your host, MF Boogeyman, with our first exclusive interview here with Taylor Wood of Nostromo Interactive, the developer behind the video game SLACKJAW, coming out August 8th. Don't forget to slash a like and subscribe for more exciting coverage and interviews in the near future, and stick around towards the end for an exciting announcement, and enjoy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I'm a composer. So I write music for indie games, and I also teach composition lessons. But I've been a musician all my life, starting with percussion. I'll give a abridged version, but that's really who I am. So this is my first game, my first learning of coding, my first learning of game engines beyond the capacity of dealing with audio. So yes, I'm a primarily composer, and I started this. This took me a year and a half. And I started, well, maybe that's another question, but I started learning this engine a couple years ago off and on. But yeah, so I'm a composer.
Being a video game developer, do you play much games yourself on your free time? And if so, what kind of games do you like to play?
Absolutely, I do. I think it's important that you participate in whatever thing you're creating. Like, I always have my students listen to current music or current soundtracks. I'm a big survival horror person, obviously it shows. So I love all the Resident Evils. Obviously, I'm super hyped for 9. Me and my sister play a lot of the multiplayer horror games. So Dead by Daylight, Outlast Trials, the Texas Chainsaw game. I love the since closed Evil Dead game. That was my favorite multiplayer game. But I play a lot of horror games. I love Alien Isolation, the Outlast games, The Forest. But I also love cozy games. Those are kind of my 2 big ones. So I love Stardew Valley. Played a lot of Disney Dreamlight Valley. All right. And and Animal Crossing, of course. So those 2 categories are usually what I flip between.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of Animal Crossing myself, especially during the COVID times. I mean, who hasn't, right? So you made this game, SLACKJAW. What is this game about?
You play as a victim of a serial killer, and you have to escape. So it's an escape room. That's the best way to describe it, which is what I've put on the description. But what it's about, kind of how I came about this, is I was learning Unreal in 2022, off and on. And I was making a bigger game, actually. And then I just didn't know what I was doing, and I was like, I'm never going to finish this. So the first thought was, can I make a game that takes place in one room? Now, I know I added more rooms to this, but that was where it started. And then I wanted a kind of simple concept to be like, okay, you just can win or you can lose. And I love crime stuff. I love Silence of the Lambs, that kind of thing. Criminal Minds. But there's a Criminal Minds episode that was the basis for this, which is Criminal Minds, if you don't know, is a TV show where the FBI investigates killers. And one of them, they go to an old farmhouse and they find hundreds of shoes, in that this guy has been active for years, decades, and nobody knew about it. So that's kind of the overall theme of this. Is the title track I've called Veneer of a Man, which is veneer teeth, obviously, but there's a lot of teeth stuff you'll see. But basically that people could be out there right now that we have no idea of. Like, how creepy is that there's people out there active that we don't know anything about. So that's like
Yeah.
what the game is like thematically about, but like literally you're escaping. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, because it's yeah, you're right. Like how many, you're out there every day and not knowing that like, behind the scenes there's somebody in your neighborhood that could be doing these
Yeah.
horrific acts, and it's just like, oh my god. And I saw you're talking about the description. I saw the description of the game. It seemed pretty intense too. It said, at the latest prey of a deranged serial killer, you must use your wits and resources to survive in this atmospheric first-person escape room-style horror game. Explore, uncover secrets, and plan your escape. But be quiet, or you'll be his next victim, inspired by true events. And I was going to ask you next was, this game is inspired by true events, and I can see here that it's inspired by the 2024 true crime podcast, My Escape from the SLACKJAW Killer. I said it took America. Go ahead.
I'll leave this vague for you guys to play the game.
Yeah.
But yes, I really I find true crime really fascinating. And so there's that's kind of how I wanted to do kind of the framing of it. So I'll be a little bit vague about what's real, what's exactly going on,
Sure.
so that you guys can have fun with it. I was inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? So basically, I tried to make everything like, what would this really be like? Like the layout of the basement took forever, for example.
Okay.
Like, is this a real functional kind of layout? What would the actual, like, so I spent forever, no one's going to notice or care, but making the pipes above you, like, actually lead to correct places and everything, because I was really just trying to make it feel like this is a real space that would be, like, laid out how a person would lay it out, versus, like, that was actually a really hard part, was, like, there is kind of a gaminess to games of, like, okay, well, this is clearly laid out so the player can interact with it. So a combination of that, like, having the lighting direct you to where I want you to go, but also make sure it makes sense realistically, like he would put a light there.
Is it just you as the solo dev, or is there a team that worked on this?
It is just me. I do feel really nice though when people email me and go, "Hello, Nostromo team," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks." It is just me, but I don't know, is any solo dev game totally solo? Because I had my friends play test it, and for example, the song that's in the game, I wrote everything and did the production, but my sister is the one singing it. And then my older sister helped me, like, okay, talk about what's the layout, would this puzzle be better than this one? So I definitely made sure to like get feedback and talk to people along the way and not create it in a total vacuum. But yes, I guess, and again, you can relate as a developer, is that I knew I'd have to do anything, but I didn't know it in my soul. So an example of that would be, even the menu, right? I thought, oh, there'd be a template for the main menu, right? And there is in the Unreal Marketplace, there's some templates, like there's a horror game template actually. And I wanted to use them, so they're code templates, right? But the issue with templates I found is that if you're a beginner, such as myself, such as I was, you don't know enough to be able to change the templates to how you want it. But then if you know enough, you don't need a template. So I didn't end up using any code templates. So therefore because again, I couldn't figure out like, oh, I don't actually want the inventory to look this way. I want it to do it this way. So, but yeah, all the little details is really what I thought was surprising about solo development. Like, I want to be able to back out of menus, just all those little details that you don't consider. The controller support, pause functionality, all the scaffolding. I guess that's what I thought I'd be able to just use templates for. The main menu, returning to main menu, having a little message that says, like, are you sure you want to return the main menu? Are you sure you want to restart the game? Being able to transition in and out of that stuff, game over screens, being able to reload, all those tiny details you don't even consider when you play a game. But I made sure to, I watched some videos, about solo development, a lot of research, but they suggested, play to your strengths. So that's why I leaned on the sound and the music, because I knew I could execute that pretty well. So all the spatial audio of like when you walk by something, it's out of your left headphone and everything is all in there. And then yeah, all the code, and then a lot of the assets are free assets. And also some I made in the Unreal has like a basic modeling system. So I tried to stay in Unreal, like the tool locker and kind of the basic shapes that I could do. But what I found, I mean, I'm going on a tangent, stop me anytime.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
But what I found interesting, again, about solo development, all these things I was surprised to figure out, is I guess I thought it'd be, as far as, I know not the coding, right? The coding is very complicated. But as far as the decoration stuff, I thought it'd be a little more drag and drop, okay? But even taking a free asset from the store, it's not the right resolution. It's not the right color palette. It's way too bright. Like the fridge is a good example. The fridge is a free asset, and it was so shiny and beautiful. So I had to like go in there, change the material, add a bunch of grime to it. So I was surprised by how much massaging I had to give the stuff I didn't make by hand in order to get it to all be cohesive. And like materials are a good example. Like a concrete material is from what's called a Megascan, which is like, you can get those free if you use Unreal, which is like materials. But when you put it in, it's all tiled weird and looks totally wrong and isn't reflecting the light correctly. So I was surprised. And same thing with getting that all to look nice, like the toggle, the flashlight has a spring arm, so it's slightly like is a slight delay, so it looks more realistic. And the post process, I spent a lot of time with like adjusting all the color values, and so it's all these like, yeah, I think that's what was very surprising about doing it all myself. Is I was like, first of all, I have to do it all myself, which you're like, duh, but then you're like, I actually got to make the pause menu myself, and like, where do all the buttons go and how do they load, and all the basic stuff like that, not even the games. The game stuff I knew, okay, yeah, you gotta make it. And then using outside assets was actually sometimes such a struggle, or it would load in and there'd be no material assigned to it. So it's like, then I gotta make a new material, put all the textures in there and hook it up myself. And so anyway, that's what was interesting. That's what I found really interesting about the experience.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've done that myself, and especially for trying to find assets in the store that you could use or tweak a
It's
little
hard,
bit.
yeah.
It is, and
You're like, this looks too nice, or this is low poly, or this is. So, yeah, next time I think I would do different things, but I think it worked out fine for this.
so you chose Unreal Engine 5 to develop this game, and I'm curious as a dev for myself, what is it about Unreal Engine that you chose for this platform versus Unity?
I chose it because of the visual scripting. So for those who don't know, the coding you can do in Unreal, there's a system called Blueprints, and it's kind of visual nodes that you connect versus literally typing numbers and letters. And so I know Unity has a version of that too, and I'm in Unity actually for a client project, but since I had no background in code, I just thought that just seemed crazy daunting. So when I saw that people were making games in Unreal with the visual stuff, which also is, I have my own thoughts about that, but I thought, okay, maybe I could learn that because I'm a much more visual learner, and I saw people make their entire games just using that, not getting into C# or C++ or anything else, other languages. So that's why I picked it. And then I also picked it because I knew I wanted to make 3D games, and that seemed to be the best engine for that. So 3D and then the coding language.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting because I used Unity in the past, and I wondered, it's for Unreal Engine, when you use that, is there for those that want to like look into it themselves, is there like a free version of it, or is there like a paid subscription? Like, how does that work when you choose to use an engine to start developing a game?
It's totally free until you gross over $1 million, right? Which is not gonna happen to me anytime soon. So they're pretty nice to indies. It's free until you gross over $1 million, and I think you owe them 5% royalties, which actually I think is fair. I'm like, yeah, if I use this whole engine to make stuff and I was that successful, that seems fair to me. But no, it's totally free to use.
for those that are kind of want to know a little bit more about just the past the gameplay, it's like what goes on in this game to make it feel as real as it is. And when you're walking across and hitting objects and stuff, and things are moving around, and like there's interactions that happen in response to that, it's just like, how does that work out?
That was also very difficult to figure out, is like what makes. I found this was one of the hardest things for me too, which again, I was like, I'm sure this is what they talk about in schools, which is what makes a game versus I've just walked around in a pretty environment. Mm-hmm. How much interaction does there need to be? Do you need to be able to win or lose? I vote yes, which is why you can die or you can survive. So, that was very difficult to figure out, like, how can this be more of a game versus I'm just kind of walking around, which is fine. I know people love walking simulators, and it's kind of in that similar vein, but I wanted it to be more interactive. So yeah, there are some things that you do that are reacted to. And then I also tried to make, again, with the realism we were talking about, I tried to make all the items you do realistic ones you would find in there. So pliers and saws and, different, we'll say, other objects that are not fantastical. So for example, one of my inspo was if you've played Resident Evil 7, the birthday puzzle. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you're playing the VHS tape.
I wish I knew. I have not, unfortunately, played Resident Evil 7 or 8. I am slacking.
Okay.
I am slacking. But I'm sure a lot of people that will be listening to this would know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I'll be brief then. But in Resident, I recommend you play all these because I love them both. But in 7, you are in a mini escape room kind of situation, and I liked that all the items kind of made sense with how they were working together and you were finding them. So for example, there isn't like you have to like do a shadow on a painting which moves the thing. So there's nothing in that vein. I tried to make all the elements of what you're doing things that could happen, like things that you would find in the basement. So that was actually tricky too, where it's like, how can I use this object in a way for this thing to work? And then I also tried to kind of make it branching, so it's not just one chain. It's like there's different things you can kind of do to escape in different orders, basically. So it's not like completely linear in that. I mean, it kind of is, but you know what I mean? There's like things you can get before other things, which again, I really like from Resident Evil puzzles, is like you could have an item, but you can't use it quite yet. And so you're looking at, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, I have 2 things. Which thread should I follow? Basically trying to make different threads for your, for the gameplay. Instead of just, it's one, it's like you're trading an item, get an item, trading, you know what I mean? I tried to make it have multiple threads.
Okay, yeah, that's gotta be interesting to code that. Well, not code that. Well, I don't know how would to like map that. I guess.
I had a whiteboard of like a tree to be like, okay, what if you grab this? Because again, I didn't want to make it completely linear. So it's got to be, what if you grab this? Well, what if you touch that before you've done this? Is that going to cause you to die or what? So I had to think. That's another, again, these things. I'm sure anyone in game development school watching this is like, duh, but. That you have to actually account for all the different things the player is going to do. So a good example is like when you go into the tunnel, some music plays, but I don't leave the door behind. The door behind you is unlocked, so you can just go back into the basement. So I was thinking you would just go forward, but I'm like, if someone just wants to go back into the basement, then that music's got to stop. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like things like that of like, maybe I wouldn't do it, but if someone else is going to be doing it, what's going to happen to them,
That's interesting. I'm kind of curious to know what would happen. I'm going to play that myself and go back and see what happens if you have anything set up for that.
Yeah, so I'd like, what are the ways that you can die and what? Yeah, so there's multiple ways, right? In it, there's not just one way. Okay. But just in case, what if someone does this? Try not to break the realism. Mm-hmm. So if someone's making a bunch of noise, then you should die. That's what you've done. Yeah. So, trying to make it so that you can kind of do your own little thing. I mean, it's not, I tried to make it as interactive and nonlinear as I could with my constraints, basically, is what I'll say. Yeah. How can it have a pacing and lead to an ending if you can do it at different speeds at different things? Which was, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it came out. You guys will be the judge. But that's also, again, I found really interesting is like when you're writing a piece of music, you can just listen to it top to bottom and it's the same every time. So you can be like, okay, well, is the pacing correct? Is my intro too long? But in a game, especially when you know all the answers, it's really hard to check the pacing. So that's something my playtesters was very helpful. Like, are they getting too bogged down with this certain thing, or is it feeling like they're leading to a conclusion? Does it feel like it just ends too suddenly? Like the actual pacing of the experience also. I mean, I really salute, I now totally understand the suffering of game devs now, because it's like I can only imagine on a huge scale, like if your game is 10 hours, like how do you even begin to pace something like that out?
Without spoiling anything, once you beat the game or escape, is there a harder mode that you unlock, or do these areas you're playing in randomize in these objectives or items that are in the game, so that they're not in the same placement every time you play? Or did you want the players to experience this story as it was told and inspired from these events?
No, there is not any. I'll just tell you guys so you're not expecting that. Which is, no, there's not a harder mode. There's currently not. It randomizes the items or anything. I thought about all that stuff, but again, I was like, I actually want to finish this in a time frame. But I have some of my playtesters were like, I want a timed mode, or I want this, or I want that. So I think those kind of things would be cool for a next project. I would like to, I think, do something bigger and something that has even more interactivity and more stuff going on. But no, again, there's a lot of things in the process where I was like, this would be cool. And then I started to try to do it and I was like, this is either going to take forever, or I don't know actually how to do this right now.
Would you say, how hard was it to develop this game?
I mean, for me, it was like the hardest thing I've ever done. Because I've never worked this long on a project. All the soundtracks I've done have been under a year. This took a year and a half. So for me, it was very difficult. I'm sure an experienced developer would be like, I could make this easy. But for me, it was very difficult. And the two hardest parts were, first, the actual mental game of, can I finish this? Have I finally hit something I don't know how to do? The controller support almost killed me, but I wanted it because I like to play with controllers. I was like, I at least want to play my own game. But that was extremely difficult to set up, that all the menus work with the controller. I mean, God help anyone else who tries to do that. I mean, I have a new appreciation because I was like, this was so complicated. So the actual mental game was really difficult. And then I don't know that the technical stuff's really hard. For sure. Okay, I don't want to give false expectations, but I think what was really hard is like, what's the scope and what makes it actually a game? Like the design I thought was hard, of like, is this too long? Is this too confusing? I had some people who couldn't figure out some stuff, and I'm like, okay, do I need to shine a light on it so it shows you can interact? Like making it the actual design so that there is enough friction where you feel like you are solving things and you're escaping. But not friction in a way of like, I would have never figured out to do this. This is too confusing. You know what I mean? Like that balance was very difficult. But the actual making of the game is very technically challenging because I didn't know about coding. I didn't know about variables, Booleans. I didn't know how to use any of that stuff until I was learning. So that's all very difficult, but it is learnable. I mean, all of this is learnable. If anyone wants to make a game, they can. It's just, yeah, again, there's so much that I thought, I didn't realize how much is actually involved until you actually do every part of it, right? So just the amount of things, it's like I got to make the icons for the UI of like the interact buttons and things like that. And actually like the bone jiggle physics, that was a bit complicated to set up. Like I said, the materials, spending hours and days and weeks on making the materials look good was like, because how can they look a little bit 3D? Like the wall has has like bricks that I use there's this nanite displacement in Unreal that makes it kind of look 3D, even though of course it's a 2D wall. So that was hard. And then I did make a part of the challenge involves a peephole. And that I added in the last part because I was playing Silent Hill 4 and that has a peephole and I was like, this is great. Should I do something like this? And so there's a puzzle kind of involving that was very difficult to set up, but I'm happy with how it came out. But yeah, just the technical things of even I saw a game developer say like, if you want to know how hard game dev is, make a door that you can open, and that's correct. Because a door is just a plane that
Yes.
rotates. You have to decide what axis it's going to rotate on. Then you have to decide how am I going to interact with it? Is if it's the player is closer or if it's the player looking at it. If they're looking at it, like in my game, it does a line trace to like what object is being looked at. But I didn't want to just look at the door. I want to look at the doorknob. So now the doorknob needs to have a collision that when I look at it, then it will show the interact prompt, but only if I'm standing close enough to it. Because, for example, in my game, I have at his desk, there's multiple things you can touch. So you are overlapping with them all, but it's only going to show and let you interact with what's in the center of the camera, what's your flashlights over. So even getting that, and then the other prompts don't show, and it only shows that one. So even something, again, in a game we totally take for granted, I was like, wow. Just the pages of those visual code is insane for again, my game's very simple, but the player blueprint, I'll have to do some behind the scenes at some time, is massive.
Yeah,
It's insane. It's like line tracing, then it's like being able to do the menus, crouch, the camera head bobble effect is running. It's like crazy.
Is this your first game that you have developed? I know you mentioned you developed something else before.
Yeah, I was working on a bigger game before I started this project. But I did not finish it, of course. It was very cool. I may go back to it. But now that I look back at it, it was a total fool's errand because it was going to be so massive. It was just not going to get finished in any reasonable amount of time. And I wanted to actually go through the entire process of release, optimization, getting feedback, getting player feedback. And then, I haven't even finished the process because it'll be post-release. What are the reviews? All that kind of stuff. But no, so that was not half development. That was baby developed. And then I did make some Fortnite games, actually. Some games in Fortnite. Which, because Fortnite has its own game maker, that I don't know if I'd recommend that really helps at all, because you are totally constrained to the Fortnite tools. I mean, I think now they have different stuff, but I feel like just to make some small little games to kind of see, but I feel like that actually doesn't really translate. Some people might have a different experience, but I feel like those skills didn't really help me. Because you're not actually using Unreal in that way. It's like an Unreal for Fortnite. And so you can only use the tools that it gives you, kind of. I mean, I think there's ways you can get under the hood, but for a beginner, not really. You wouldn't do that, right? So
what got you into wanting to develop a video game, especially this specific kind where it's a horror experience?
I always liked games, obviously, from Pokemon on Game Boy Color. I'm dating myself there, but I've always thought, kind of in the back of my mind with my sisters and stuff, wouldn't it be cool to make a game? But other people, smart people do that. I wouldn't know how to do that. Just a far off, not even a dream, just that would be interesting, perhaps. So during the pandemic, a lot of my composition client work dried up because they canceled their games or ran out of funding or whatever, right, during the pandemic. So it was really that was the catalyst that was okay, well, since I don't have any client projects at that time, maybe I should take the time to try to learn this just for fun and see if I can do it. And start watching some tutorials and get a computer that can handle Unreal. So it was really more of this might be the opportunity to actually take and try to learn this while my client projects have had subsided. So also another fun part of my decision or inspiration for this was Resident Evil 8 had just come out, Village. That was 2021. So I was like, oh, I really want to play the next one, 9. So I wonder if I can learn and make a whole game before 9 comes out, which I will have succeeded because 9 comes out in February. So when I saw the announcement trailer, I was like, I did it.
That's awesome.
So, but then of course, yeah, I love horror. And then like I said earlier, which is trying to make it in one room, actually playable game, have the kind of atmospheric elements I like, and then try to execute on it to actually release it on Steam.
On your website as well, you mentioned that you're a music composer and you've done that for several years. And I believe you mentioned it, but just to confirm, like, what kind of music do you play specifically?
Well, my primary instrument's percussion, so mostly marimba, actually. So on my personal YouTube channel, if you go way back, you'll see a bunch of marimba and percussion videos from my recitals. But now I just write music, basically. So the music I write, again, on my website, you can see all kinds of stuff. There's some kind of electronic stuff. I really like kind of the atmospheric crime. Like I made like a crime kind of album that you can see on there. And then the music for my clients is all kind of different stuff. Like I did a score for this game called The Window Box, and that's like a jazzy kind of like jazz and classical piano kind of hybrid thing. So that's what I like about working with clients, and like the client project I'm working on now has me going in all types of genres too. So that's kind of fun because then you get to kind of try out all these genres you're not either familiar with or you haven't done in a while. Like actually for the game, the song that I wrote that's in the trailer, that my sister is singing that I wrote, that was very difficult because I wanted it to sound like a real oldie, like a real, like a, put your head on my shoulder, like that kind of song. So I studied a bunch of those songs, figured out all what the chords were, did an analysis, everything to try to, do similar stylistic elements. So, but yeah, so I write all kinds of genres, but my favorite is I do like songwriting, and then I do like the kind of atmospheric, soundscapey, dark kind of music and orchestral music. There's also the main theme track is string orchestra in this game, and so I really like orchestra as well.
Awesome, and I did check out your YouTube channel. You had some of that up on there on
yep.
those videos, and I heard the menu of that.
Yeah,
I thought that was absolutely incredible. Just the eerie, and it does feel like it captures like that moment that you're there. You did a really great job with that. I think that's really fascinating.
Thank you.
And I was going to ask you if some of your music is in this game, and you definitely confirmed that it is.
It's all my music, yeah. So it's there's not that many tracks in it, but yeah.
That's incredible. That's really cool because like not only are you just like a solo dev making this game stuff, but music is very important for, especially like for a video game. There's a lot of moments where like Halo and other games where it's like when you play the song or you play the theme, you know where it's coming from, and it really captures just a specific sound captures the game as a whole, and I think that's truly important. And for in this situation, for your game, you're making this music, and I think that really already it just captures the sense of this game. And I think that's really, really fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, so much of horror is the atmosphere. So a lot of those sound effects I just recorded at home. My wooden drawers opening, my dryer going, all that kind of stuff. So that was also really fun. But yeah, so trying to really again play to my strengths. Because I was not an expert coder or an expert animator or an expert whatever, I was like, okay, I know I can execute on the music and the sound pretty well.
And I was going to ask you the same for music. Like when you wrote the music to this, did you already know exactly like what kind of music you're going to put into this, or did you play around with different ideas? And was there anything that was new that you created for the game, or was it something that you already had before?
All the music is for the game, so I wrote it for the game. So I vaguely knew I wanted 3 different things because I was like, I want to write the music I like. So the most important one was the song that plays in the game, the one that's in the trailer. And so that was very difficult. It took me a long time to write because I wrote the full song because like I was like, yeah, let's have fun with it. But I was like, so it's like 3.5 minutes, the full song, and it has like verses and choruses and so it's a bit overkill. But so I knew, okay, I want the oldies song, and then I want orchestral, which I use for the main menu. And then in the game, when you start playing the game, there's like a kind of soundscapey, weirdo piece of music that's in there. So I knew I wanted at least those 3. There's a couple other little tiny kind of stingers of music, but those were the 3 main that I knew I wanted, those 3 different kind of styles, but to all fit together. But no, it's all created just for the game because I was like, oh, that'll be fun. And the song was really fun because I got to record it with my sister again, who's singing that. And yeah, the orchestra song was hard too because again, it's all virtual instruments because my budget was $0. So it's all virtual. So any of my composer people watching will know, trying to make the strings sound realistic again is its whole. Actually, that's a really good analogy is that in music, if you're using virtual instruments, okay, so like fake strings, you have to do a lot of massaging to get them to sound realistic. You have to add reverb, maybe add some room tone, maybe do some EQ. That's very similar to using the assets from the store. Is like out of the box, it's pretty rough. So you have to do all this lighting and massaging. But I mean, it definitely, of course, if I made everything from scratch, I wouldn't have finished already. So it's I'm glad that I used what things I could find that fit. But yeah, so even with those fake strings, it's like everything needs a little bit of a massage, but then I think it's fine.
For those that don't know, you say virtual instruments. What program did you use, and what is that all like?
So I will probably do some behind the scenes videos too.
Sure.
But I use Cubase. And Cubase is a digital audio workstation, a DAW is what they're called. So that's where the production takes place. And then within that, you can load virtual instruments. And so basically it's, so with that, I use Contact. If anyone's particularly wondering, I use Cinematic Studio strings as my strings. But basically you have, what they are is someone actually recorded strings, like in an orchestra, and then they've programmed an instrument that you can play on your piano. So I'm playing the strings on my piano, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by so they are based on real audio, but they're a virtual instrument in that I didn't go to a real recording session. I played all the parts in that way. So that's how all the music is done. So even the song, all of those are virtual instruments. So I played the drum part, I played the piano part, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. So they are also called sample libraries is another term for them because they're, someone played a piano, all the different notes, and that's the audio files you are playing. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's like the rough version.
How long did it take you to make that music for the game?
The writing of each piece was really spread out. So the actual composition of it took like really a couple weeks for each one. Although the main theme I think I wrote in like a day. But then the production of it, and then like the main theme I wrote as piano. So actually orchestrating it, like figuring out what the cello, the viola, violins, and bass are gonna play, that took time. And then later the mixing of all of this took time as well. So it was spread out during the whole development. Like I wrote the pieces pretty early, but they were in a rough state production-wise. But actually after I composed them, they didn't change that much. Like after I wrote all the lyrics for the song and the chords, that didn't really change. After a certain point, it was just the production.
And I was going to ask you, what was the most fun part about making this game? Would it be the music?
Ooh, that's actually a good question. I would say the music / I actually like doing kind of the art direction stuff and the lighting. That was actually pretty fun. So I would just like listen to music and like be like, okay, what's the tint of this light? what's the fog levels, where does this light reflecting off this, what's the the layout of like the area I like is where the bones are with his workbench and his desk. Like that kind of whole area, and like that light is like a little off yellow. So like use like messing with, and even your flashlight is a little, again, I played Resident Evil 7 and realized the flashlight's a little blue. So like the tints of the colors and kind of the general layout of it, actually I thought was fun. I didn't think I'd be any good at that. I didn't know if I'd like it, but I was like, okay, this is pretty fun actually. So that and the music I think were the most parts where I was like having a lot of fun.
So, you now made your first game, SLACKJAW. What's next for Nostromo Interactive? Are we looking to develop more games like this one in the near future?
That's a great question. I would like to, because I would like to execute what I know now. Because I feel like I'm happy with SLACKJAW. I think it's done what it needed to do, but I feel like, okay, I've learned so much. I'd like to like apply all these new skills. So yes, you can join the Discord if you want to see what's next. But I don't have a concrete plan now, no, because I'm deciding if I want to do another solo game or not. I might want to try to form a little team and get some funding or do something bigger. So I'm still not sure. But I'd like to at least make another game just so that I can, because I feel like I've learned so much, I know exactly what I would do better next time.
And speaking of Nostromo, you go under the name Nostromo Interactive, which cool name by the way. And I have to ask, so you're a fan of the Alien franchise?
Of course. Of course I am. That's the true catalyst really is when we were even thinking about making games was playing Alien Isolation with my sister. We were thinking maybe we would make a game together. It didn't end up working out, but I mean, she, helped give me feedback and everything with this, which was awesome. But yeah, Nostromo, love Alien. It's my favorite horror movie, I would say. Love it. So yeah, I was like, I didn't want to do my real name. I mean, my real name is everywhere, which is fine. But I just want a little bit of distance, I think. Like, this is kind of its own project, yeah.
Sure.
But of course, yeah. Who doesn't love the production design of Alien? Amazing. Love it.
And I was going to ask you, what's your favorite Alien film? Would it be the first one out of all of them?
It's the first one, and I'll tell you really quick why. I know people like the second one. I recently rewatched them in order. I really actually don't like the second one. I don't like the action tone to it. I love the first one because, again, I love the production design. So I love being in the Nostromo. I love when we get to see the ship, the alien ship, and all the H.R. Geiger design. I feel like it's more stylized. So that's why I think the first one's the best. The rest of them are kind of just sci-fi movies. I'm sorry if that's blasphemous. They're kind of just a sci-fi movie, while Alien has its own distinct atmosphere to it, which I think the game Alien Isolation captured amazingly. That's why I love that game too.
That being said, being a fan of the Alien franchise, would you ever consider making another game that's influenced by the Alien movies?
Well, that's not exactly. The first game I was attempting to make was a sci-fi horror game. So it was more sci-fi, which is probably where I'd lean next if I had to guess, because I would like to just do a totally different environment with totally different environmental design and aesthetic. But yeah, I love sci-fi horror, and so yeah, we'll see. I don't have a concrete plan yet, but that would definitely be cool.
Okay, awesome. And I have one more question to ask.
Sure.
So this game comes out August 8th. Is this strictly on Steam, or can we find this on consoles too?
It's strictly on Steam right now. Again, I just wanted to do one thing correctly. So maybe later. I would like to put it on the Epic Game Store. I don't know how complicated it is to get it to PlayStation. That would be cool because it already has controller support. But right now, yeah, just Steam.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, and where we have it, SLACKJAW released on Steam August 8th. And for the viewers listening in, get this on your wish list right now if you haven't yet. It comes out Friday, August 8th. And that's about all the questions I have, unless if you would like to mention anything else about the game or yourself for the viewers and gamers out there.
No, just I hope you enjoy it. And if you play it, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks for having me. And this was very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you and knowing more about this game and yourself. And I'm excited to play this myself and to stream this for everyone to check it out as well.
And there we have it, folks. That was Taylor Wood of Nostromo Interactive, the developer behind SLACKJAW. I'll leave all the links and details in the description below. Lots of really good information and details going in depth behind the scenes of what it takes to make a game such as this, especially for a solo dev. Absolutely amazing. Be sure to check it out, again, releasing this Friday, August 8th. Also, be sure to check out my other socials in the description below, as I will be live streaming this game at launch this Friday on Twitch. Until then, keep your doors locked and leave the lights on. This is the Slasher Report, and I bid you farewell.